innovations in fair, in fair payment systems. We're launching a very important report on fair collection systems with a focus on Africa. And this is our event to that effect. My name is Arturo Ardila Gomez. I am your moderator today. Today is Tuesday, June 29, 2021. We're starting at 9:05 Washington, D.C. time. I am global lead for urban mobility at the World Bank. I work at the Infrastructure Transport Global Knowledge Unit, where we try to generate new knowledge. But as you can see, all other colleagues in the transport practice at the bank are also in the endeavor of generating new knowledge, in particular for our client countries. I also have some lending operations, mostly in Egypt. Today's event will take us from 9 until 10:30 a.m., 4 to 5:30 p.m. Nairobi time. And with no further ado, allow me to introduce Ivo, our practice manager. Ivo Diouf is currently the transport practice manager of the World Bank's West and Central Africa region. Prior to his position, he served as program manager for the Africa Transport Policy Program, also known as SSATP, a multi-donor trust fund program hosted by the World Bank. And indeed, SSATP is one of the sponsors of today's report that we're launching together with the AFD from France. Since joining the World Bank, Ivo has spearheaded the transport and infrastructure portfolio in Africa in different positions and capacities. He has a track record in both investments and transport policies and strategies across subsectors, roads, rails, ports, and aviation. So Ivo, please, for your introduction to the study. But before I allow you to speak, to all our participants, attendees, and participants, please keep your cameras off unless you are speaking. For attendees, please choose an interpretation language. This event is in English and French. The interpretation selection button is located at the bottom of your screen in the WebEx application. And if you have any question, please use the chat function by copying all. Then we have devised the logistics for conveying the questions, and I will read them out loud and ask them at the proper time. So please, Ivo, for your opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Arturo. Just to double check that you can all hear me clear and loud.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Arturo, for your kind words and introductory remarks. I really would like to say that I'm happy to be here today to really make some opening, I would say, remarks on opening this very important, I would say, webinar on a topic that is dear to our hearts all. I know how strong Arturo is actually engaged and committed into that effort, supporting SSATP, but also globally all these initiatives to innovate in the transport sector. I'm also very happy to see that this partnership with the global solution groups and IFD has actually yielded excellent results. I would like to thank everyone for the great effort, in particular Fatima and Kaori, who have been really spearheading this effort. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, as you all know, Africa has been at the center of digital innovation of micropayment services, mobile and smartphone-based transactions. Before it happened in other parts of the world, Africa saw the first large use of phone payment through mobile money. I still recall the case of Kenya some years back. This innovation represents a great opportunity for the African countries to leapfrog, in the digitalization of transport. And these technology-driven solutions have tremendous potential for improving and transforming public transport systems, which, as you all know, is critical for making Africa's cities more resilient, more inclusive, and greener. Recognizing how technology is reshaping the transportation industry, the Africa Transport Policy Program, SSATP, with funding from the Public-Private Partnership Infrastructure Advisory Facility, PPIAF, prepared the technical report to gain insight into the emerging fair payment landscape in public transport and identify key lessons from their implementation that may be relevant to countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, I would say in Africa and beyond. The technical report entitled Innovation in Fare Collection Systems for Public Transport in African Cities will be launched and presented at this webinar, and we are expecting excellent discussions around. Traditionally, fare systems have been viewed as a core activity of public transport service providers. However, fare systems are undergoing significant changes, reflecting a transformation and disruption in the broader society as to how people pay for and receive many goods and services. We see more and more third parties entering the payment chain, both from the banking and IT industries. Developments in public transport fare systems are strongly influenced by the wider payment industry, and of course, driven by innovation. Drawing on case studies from 5 African cities, namely Cape Town, Kigali, Lagos, Maputo, and Nairobi, and one from India, the report that we are presenting today examines trends in fare payment systems from the lens of the 3 broad dimensions. First, technology-related aspects of fare payment systems. Second, organizational and institutional issues in the management of fare systems. And last but not least, the mainstreaming of paratransit, which was identified as discrete dimension of change because of its importance as critical issue in the public transport in Africa. I hope that the report that we are launching today and the great panel of discussion that we have would inspire cities in the Africa region and beyond. And those that are embarking in this program to modernize and digitalize the public transport system will definitely get a change to paving the way and creating the conditions for greater professionalization of the paratransit systems in Africa. Looking forward to a fruitful discussion. I would like to thank you all for your kind attention and wishing you a very productive webinar. Thank you, Arturo and team.
Thank you, Ivo, for your opening remarks that highlight the importance of fare collection systems. We will now hear from Fatima Arroyo. She's a senior urban transport specialist in the Transport Global Practice at the World Bank. She's based in Dakar. She is also the acting pillar lead on urban mobility in the Africa Transport Program. She supports governments in Africa to enhance urban mobility and accessibility. Fatima will now present the study Innovations in Fare Payments in Africa. Fatima, you have 15 minutes. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Arturo, and an absolute pleasure to be here today to present this report that we are launching today about the innovations in fare payment systems in Sub-Saharan Africa. I'm going to share my screen now. So in this 15 minutes presentation, I want to give you like a flavor of this report, going through the main parts of this study, and I would like to focus mainly most of my time in the last part in the key observations and key lessons learned from the different case studies that we have analyzed. So first of all, this study about innovation in fair payments, it was developed with the objective of informing the development of African fair payment systems within public transport. And for that, what we did, it was we identified relevant case studies, in total 5 from the African context and 1 from India. And we analyzed and researched each of these case studies to have and to gain an understanding about what are the emerging payment landscape in public transport. And based on this, we identify what are the key trends and lessons learned that we would like to share with you today. First, the reports include a series of definition and concepts that are very important for those cities that are embarking in the thinking or in the process of implementing fair payment systems in public transport. The difference between closed and open loop systems, account-based systems, and back office centric versus car-centric systems, for example, are important definitions that need to be very well understood to be able to select and to define the fair payment systems that cities want to implement. I will not spend a lot of time in this part because my colleagues Antoine and Philippe will focus much more in this part in their presentation. These different case studies, we wanted to analyze them from 3 different perspectives. And these 3 perspectives are a technological perspective, an organizational and institutional perspective, and a mainstreaming in paratransit. And why we wanted to include 3 perspectives. So what we realized is that when analyzing first systems, there is a tendency to focus on the technology itself, such as, for example, the use of smart cards or the introduction of mobile phone technologies. However, when there is new ways of doing things, it involves not only the successful implementation of technologies, that is the first part, but also it involves the successful implementation of institutional, organizational, and business process changes, which is the second pillar. The pillar of mainstreaming of paratransit, we thought it was particularly important because of the dominance of the paratransit in the African context. So on the first part of the technology, on the technology side, we have analyzed 2 key technology sides. One, it has been the transport smart card technologies that were developed, have been present in a few decades, that were developed a few decades ago, and were developed in the back on the credit card industry. There are cities in Africa such as Cape Town, Kigali, Lagos, and Maputo that had put in place this kind of fair payment systems. Here, what we have seen is that initially the transport smart card used closed systems, but globally we are seeing more and more open systems that allow payment through different type of payments, for example, smartphones, credit card, or debit card. But this is still pretty limited in an African context. Car-centric systems are also more common in Africa, and this is in a part due to the fact that there is limited high-speed connectivity, that there is certain limitation in this high-speed connectivity with the back office, but it is expected that in the coming years, this will be a trend that will be changing, and we will see more back-centric systems. Regarding smartphones, we see this as the most significant new technology influencing the first systems in Africa, which enables two-way communication between the users and the systems. It allows lower infrastructure cost investment, and it also allows to adapt to a much broader type of transport services, which go from those that are more rigid services, such as rail or BRT, to much more flexible ones. In terms of the organizational institutions, what we wanted to analyze under this pillar, it is actually how the shift to automated first system from cash system can result and can impact the flow of money, and how that affect the incentives and the power relations in the provision of public transport. And this third dimension of mainstreaming in paratransit, here what we also wanted to study, it was basically how in practice the introduction of automated first systems can translate in improvements in paratransit. There is a general assumption that introduction of automated first systems is a possible mechanism for bringing improvements, but actually most of the attempts that have been done in the past have not been very successful. And a key dimension here that we wanted to analyze, it is actually how the changes in the business model of paratransit can affect these improvements in paratransit. So just very briefly regarding the case studies. So as I mentioned before, we had 6 case studies. We had 5 case studies from the African context, one case study from Cape Town, from Maputo, Kigali, Nairobi, and Lagos in Africa, and 1 case in India that have integrated fair payment system in 15 cities, which name is Chalo. This gave us a pretty interesting range of fair payment systems, some of them mainly led by transport authorities, such as is the case of the fair payment system in Lagos or the one in Maputo. Some of them more led by the private sector, such as the one of AC Group in Kigali. And also some of them that are led also by the private sector, but have a much more and has a much more strong focus on mobile payment, which is the case of Kenya. I would like now to focus this last part of the presentation in trying to answer 5 key questions that we asked ourselves while we were doing this work. So the first question, it is a very basic question. It is, are automated fare systems worth it? Here, there is a general assumption that automated fare systems are a superior system compared to cash-based systems. So this modernization towards automatic fare systems is a solution. But what we have seen is that it's very important to have a clarity about the objectives and a realism about the potential costs and benefits when introducing automatic fare systems. A key arguments in favor of automatic fare systems are that they can improve efficiency, for example, allowing quicker boarding. It can also fight against the evasion and the leakages in the system. It can provide a lot of data. It can improve transparency in the system, and also is more convenient for users. However, on the downside, we can also see that automatic fare systems can be costly, especially when the margins are very low. And actually, this can be a real challenge for the financial sustainability of the operations in some instances. Also, what we have seen is that in societies where cash remains the main mode of payment, cash is often the most convenient medium of payment for users. And also in an African context where citizens many times don't have the means to charge the smart card with several trips, in every single transactions they have to pay a fee. So actually at the end, the use of the smart cards represent for them additional cost and additional inconvenience. And something that we have also seen is that the data provided by the first systems is arguably the most important benefit, that can be used for 2 key benefits. One, it is to optimize the overall system operations, and the second, it is to improve bankability, as having better accountability and better transparency of revenues actually facilitate the access to finance for operators. The second question is, what are the most significant technological trends? Well, here, while fair payments in Africa remains largely cash-based, electronic systems are being introduced, and these are mainly card-based systems, such as the case of Cape Town, Kigali, Lagos, and Maputo. Most of these systems are card-centric, although there has been some attempts to introduce back-office account-based systems, such as in the case of Maputo. And in order to limit the to mitigate the constraint of having constraint in the communication, more information have been actually stored in the card. Mobile phones, and especially smartphones, actually towards the future have the potential to offer much wider functionality than smart card, allowing this two-way communication with users. And little by little, they have started being used in the African context for public transport fare payment. Something important when implementing this first system in an African context is that today most of the phones, especially used by users of public transport, tend to be low-income users. It is that most of them have feature phones still, although smartphone penetration is growing very quickly. So the solutions actually need to be adapted to these needs of users that don't have smartphones. And here, for example, the M-Pesa and the mobile money industry are very well adapted to the use of feature phones. Regarding on the use of a smartphone, what we have seen is that, in particular, the case of Nairobi, it is interesting because it has been gravitating more towards payment using phones, and this is in a way one of the few examples that we have seen in the African context, and this has been through M-Pesa. There are, however, several smart payment systems that allowed charging the smart card using cell phones and using mobile money, etc. And we see that, for example, in cities such as Maputo. Also an interesting case, I think here, it is also the case of India in Chalo, which actually integrates both cash, QR code, and card payment, and integrate all this data to be able to improve operations. So in a way, combining different technological solutions in a single system. The third question is implementing a new first system primarily a technological challenge? So first systems are a fundamental element of how transport operations work and affect incentive structure and power relations in the organization of public transport delivery. So in consequence, the implementation of new first systems are much more than a technological challenge. Here, what we have seen is that when designing fair payment systems, it's very important to align these systems with the risk allocation and the revenue risk allocation, because that will define a lot of the incentives in the system. And another important thing is that one particular example of Chalo, where there was an important alignment of the interest of the first system owner with the transport business overall, had very important benefits. So in the case of Chalo, what it happened, it is that basically in their business model, they charge a small fee for the equipment and charge first for additional revenue generated to the operators. And at the same time, I mean, they have different business model, but one of them is that they can guarantee certain level of minimal revenue. In that way, they have a much greater interest for the system for the operation to work to maximize the revenues in the operations. So in that way, the Chalo ended up entering in the operations and supporting, not really operating, by supporting the operators through different services. The fourth question is, can paratransit be improved by implementing automatic fare systems? Here, two key areas. The first one, it is while there is a range of incremental improvements that are possible in paratransit, a critical step for this improvement of paratransit, it is actually to move from these individual incentives of fighting for fares and fighting for passengers, actually to a collective fleet that is able to respond to the demand with an appropriate data-driven business plan that maximize the load factors. And these improvements, these significant improvements, are not possible with the existing business model. That business model needs to change. So here, fare payment systems can actually help in that effort of creating a pool of fares coming from the different operators and building transparency in the system. However, there is a need to have a very fundamental change of business model in the operations of paratransit that only the fare payment system cannot offer. So really, they need to be, fare payment systems need to be part of a bigger plan, of a bigger strategy of improving paratransit. And finally, the last question is, what will be the role of government in the implementing fare systems? So three key areas. The first one, it is what we have seen, national governments have often more resources and political power to initiate and these kind of programs, and they should be supportive to cities, but the key role should be more in the transport authorities, in the citywide municipalities, for the implementation of these systems. A key challenge is going forward, it is going to be how to balance this creativity and competitiveness of the private sector with obtaining like a citywide public benefits that actually benefits society. So we hope that this presentation has been useful. As I mentioned, there's more information that you can obtain in the report that you can now download in the SSATP website. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fatima. You were actually 1 minute ahead of schedule, so we're saving time and catching up with the delay, a slight delay we have. So thank you very much. We will now hear from Antoine Chèvre and Philippe Baperot. Their presentation is titled Panorama of Ticketing Technologies for Mass Transit and the Golden Rules for Interoperable Ticketing. And you noticed I did an emphasis on interoperable. You will see why that word in ticketing is key. Antoine is Senior Transport Specialist in the Mobility Division of the French Development Agency, AFD. He has experience in the area of sustainable urban mobility in Europe, Africa, Asia, and Middle East through devising tailored transportation solutions, including urban mobility plans, as well as bus rapid transit, light rail, metro, and non-motorized transport projects. At AFD, he leads the implementation of the transport and digital strategy. Philippe is, as of 2008, the chairman of the Calypso, the contactless, secure, and open ticketing standard. You will hear more in the presentation and understand more about Calypso. He works at RATP since 1983, where he has been involved with different aspects of ticketing. For example, he was head of the Innovative Customers Technologies Unit, charged with designing and deploying all travel information, ticketing regulation, and supervision systems at RITP. From 2010 to 2013, he was president of ICSI, a subsidiary of RATP, in charge of the sale of passenger information and ticketing solutions. He was also coordinator of the European project ICAR and then Calypso. These are short summaries of the bios of our presenters. Antoine and Philippe, your joint presentation, you have 15 minutes to deliver. The floor is yours. Over to you.
Merci beaucoup pour l'introduction. Je vais donc vous présenter un petit peu la dimension billettique, alors qui est presque, j'allais dire, billettique à l'ancienne, qui consiste à tout ce qui est la billettique qu'on a eu avec les systèmes de transport de masse. Et donc, en préambule, je voulais surtout vous indiquer que la billettique, c'est avant tout un outil au service d'une politique tarifaire. Donc là, on est vraiment dans un contexte assez classique, hein, plutôt d'autorité organisatrice et de réseau. Et cette politique tarifaire se compose toujours de la même manière, hein. C'est une gamme de titres associés à des profils, un niveau de prix, des principes géographiques, zonage, alvéole, à la distance, plat, et un niveau d'intégration des réseaux. Dans un gros projet de transport type BRT, métro, tramway, c'est une petite composante en investissement, mais ça se positionne au nerf de la guerre, hein, puisqu'il s'agit de la relation client et également de la perception des recettes avec, donc par conséquent, et je pense que Fatima l'a bien souligné, une dimension forte sur la gouvernance puisqu'on parle de flux financiers. On distingue de manière générale, comme l'indiquait Fatima, la billettique qui est centrée sur la carte, media-based ticketing, ou centrée sur le serveur, qui est le compte usager ou account-based ticketing. Dans un contexte de mass transit, on va plutôt s'orienter aujourd'hui sur des technologies centrées sur la carte. Pourquoi? Parce que ça permet, dans un transport de masse, de gérer des flux importants de passagers, hein, parce qu'on là, on parle par exemple, d'une station standard qui va être avec 5 000, 10 000 passagers qui vont passer par jour, et également de limiter la fraude et plus le réseau est important, plus le modèle économique est fragile, plus on a besoin de sécuriser les recettes. Les tendances de fond sont les suivantes sur la billettique classique, sont donc le sans contact qui s'est imposé depuis maintenant, on va dire, 10 ans comme étant une solution standard. C'est à la fois le sens de l'histoire, à la fois c'est un gain de maintenance, et en fait, on s'aperçoit qu'on va passer assez rapidement. Alors, au début, c'était surtout de la main-d'œuvre, hein, parce que c'était le receveur. Ensuite, c'était les portillons pour pouvoir lire, c'était de la mécanique. Et là, on passe de la mécanique au logiciel. Également, pendant très longtemps, on avait voilà, le secteur des transports avec sa billettique, la piscine, etc. Enfin, différentes billettiques. Là, on va vers une carte, une multiplicité des supports. Et donc, on va donner des droits à voyager qui vont être portés soit par la carte bleue, soit par le téléphone portable, soit par une carte classique, en utilisant le NFC. Et enfin, la grosse tendance de fond c'est l'arrivée des nouveaux acteurs, notamment des technologies des GAFA. Donc les banques essayaient déjà de prendre de la place, et là, de plus en plus, les GAFA également prennent de la place. Et pourquoi ils veulent prendre de la place? Parce qu'on parle de la relation client. Et donc l'objectif des GAFA, c'est d'être incontournable et de se placer systématiquement dans toutes les transactions. Un système billettique, voilà, ça s'inscrit dans une architecture à plusieurs composantes. À la fois comme donc on voit sur la droite là, tout ce qui est support billettique, hein, c'est ce à quoi on pense généralement quand on pense billettique, mais ça va également avec des terminaux de vente, des terminaux de contrôle, des terminaux de validation qui ensemble communiquent avec un système central. Et à chaque fois, il faut penser à l'ensemble de ce dispositif. Et en fait, on s'aperçoit que c'est pas si trivial que ça, puisque on a notamment, quand on parle terminaux de vente, ça veut dire qu'il faut avoir des terminaux de vente, par exemple chez les buralistes ou dans les petites échoppes. Et donc l'enjeu de la distribution est loin d'être évident. Quelles sont les grandes technologies qui existent aujourd'hui? Donc le leader incontesté du marché, aujourd'hui, c'est MyFair. Donc il y a beaucoup d'enjeux capitalistiques industriels, donc il y a beaucoup souvent de choses qui bougent. Mais voilà, aujourd'hui, on en est là. On a donc MyFair qui est le gros leader, qui est une technologie alors propriétaire et monosource. Alors qu'est-ce qu'on appelle propriétaire monosource? C'est que l'industriel est à la fois réalise le hardware, également le software, et que c'est intégré dans un seul système. Voilà, c'est un petit peu, si vous voulez, Apple contre Linux pour les informaticiens. Et donc, on est sur, et quand je dis technologie monosource aussi, il faut voir que dans l'enjeu de la billettique, c'est que c'est énormément de tout petits composants qui sont pas forcément très coûteux, mais par contre qui sont assez dimensionnants. Et en fait, dans un système billettique que je viens de vous présenter, il y a énormément de composantes et sous-composantes. Felica, je ne vais pas en parler trop puisque c'est une filiale de Sony et c'est plutôt Japon. Également, c'est pas du tout interopérable avec le reste. Et enfin, donc il y a Calypso qui est alors pour le coup un protocole de communication entre le valideur et la carte et qui a un niveau de sécurité relativement important. Dans donc là j'ai remis les deux grandes familles, on va dire MyFair et Calypso. On a à chaque fois, et en fait je ne vais pas rentrer dans le détail, mais à chaque fois l'idée c'est qu'on a une gradation dans les supports entre d'un côté le ultralight, MyFair Ultralight, qui est pas très cher en termes de support, mais qui a une sécurité qui est un peu moindre, qui peut par exemple qui vont être adaptés peut-être aux petits réseaux ou aux enjeux au réseau il y a un peu moins d'enjeux de fraude. Et à l'autre bout du spectre, il y a le Deathfire qui est vraiment le même niveau de sécurité qu'on a sur Calypso, mais qui est donc forcément plus cher et qui est plus une logique de carte. Et Calypso également a la même gradation, on va dire, avec des nuances que peut-être Philippe pourra vous expliquer si besoin. Quels sont les points de vigilance sur la billettique? Donc on a dit que c'était une petite composante. Néanmoins, ça peut être très très vite un cauchemar et c'est notamment assez technique. Et avec un autre problème de fond qui est que aujourd'hui, la technologie billettique sont plutôt proches des technologies informatiques et donc évoluent très très vite et qui ne correspondent pas vraiment au temps des infrastructures de transport classiques. Donc il faut penser à l'évolutivité du système. Et l'évolutivité du système, c'est à la fois dans la conception du système qui puisse évoluer, accepter les innovations, etc. Et également qu'on puisse continuer à passer des appels d'offres de manière concurrentielle tout au long de la vie du réseau. Il faut bien sûr assurer une haute sécurité face à des menaces qui évoluent et on sait que la fraude, ça peut représenter une grosse part de pertes pour les exploitants. Il faut qu'on puisse aussi s'adapter à la politique tarifaire. Voilà, on a vu trop souvent des systèmes billettiques qui étaient mis en place et le jour où on voulait mettre un abonnement étudiant, on voulait mettre un abonnement annuel, on voulait faire un carnet de 15 au lieu d'un carnet de 10, et on ne pouvait pas tout simplement parce qu'on était coincé à cause de la billettique. Donc il faut penser que tout ça évolue et que ça fait partie des choses qu'il faut que le système puisse accepter. Et le quatrième point sur lequel on insiste énormément, c'est de vraiment réfléchir sur le coût total de possession. C'est-à-dire que on a le coût initial qui est l'installation, mais il y a également toute la vie du projet, comment on le renouvelle, quel type de contrat, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire en termes de gestion derrière et comment on va pouvoir avoir un système pérenne dans le temps. Et là, je mets en avant un point spécifique sur les pays en voie de développement qui est qu'on a une surreprésentation du titre unité par rapport aux abonnements, ce qui fait qu'il faut vraiment penser également au modèle économique qui est le titre unité représentant souvent 80, 90, 95% des titres. Le support doit avoir un coût qui est raisonnable par rapport au pouvoir d'achat local. Et le dernier point, et je laisse la parole à Philippe par rapport à ça, c'est d'assurer l'interopérabilité entre les réseaux. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire l'interopérabilité? C'est, voilà, je prends le transport artisanal et je vais pouvoir faire un changement auprès du BRT, par exemple, ou du métro ou du tramway. Et ça, c'est très facile à dire, mais c'est beaucoup plus difficile à mettre en œuvre. Je te laisse la parole à Philippe.
Merci Antoine. Donc, je partage mon écran. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Est-ce que c'est bon? Ça fonctionne, je pense. Donc, voilà, Antoine a fini sur un certain nombre de précautions et d'exigences très importantes. Elles sont effectivement essentielles. Je vais y revenir dans quelques instants. Mais je souhaitais, pour démarrer, repartir d'une question effectivement très, très simple. Finalement, c'est qu'est-ce que c'est que la billettique? Et moi, j'ai l'habitude de dire que la billettique, ça n'est pas le paiement du transport, mais c'est la porte d'entrée à la mobilité et à la liberté de circuler pour tous. On me signale qu'on ne voit pas mon PowerPoint. Est-ce que c'est vrai? Est-ce que quelqu'un peut me dire si le PowerPoint est visible ou pas?
Non, on ne voit pas là.
Vous ne le voyez pas. Alors, je vais recommencer. C'est très bizarre. Je ne sais pas ce qui s'est passé. Mince, alors. Je vais demander à Kaori de le passer à ce moment-là, parce que visiblement, j'ai un souci.
Une seconde,
Oui.
je cherche la présentation.
Oui, merci. Parce qu'apparemment, ce n'est pas la bonne page qu'on voit. Et pourtant, moi, j'ai bien cette page-là sous les yeux. Et tout à l'heure, ça avait bien marché. Si je reprends le partage, là, maintenant, essayons à nouveau. Est-ce que c'est bon, là? Est-ce que c'est bon, s'il vous plaît?
Toujours pas. On voit ton explorateur Internet.
Ah, c'est bizarre.
Okay, je vais partager.
Oui, merci.
Ok, une seconde.
Voilà, c'est ça. Merci. Là, je vois moi-même, donc pas de souci. On aurait vu. Donc voilà, je disais, on peut passer au slide suivant. Merci Kaori, merci beaucoup. Avant de rentrer, je voulais revenir sur une simple question. Qu'est-ce que c'est que la billettique? Et effectivement, j'ai l'habitude de dire que la billettique, ça n'est pas le paiement du transport, mais c'est la porte d'entrée à la mobilité et à la liberté de circuler pour tous. Alors, j'ai rajouté que, parce que c'est aussi le paiement du transport, bien sûr, mais ce que je veux dire par là, c'est que la billettique, en fait, c'est un outil qui permet de mettre en œuvre des politiques de mobilité, qui permet de mettre en œuvre des tarifications spécifiques. Tout le monde a le droit d'accéder au transport, donc quelles que soient vos conditions de ressources, quelles que soient les conditions sociales des personnes, quel que soit l'âge, elles doivent pouvoir, dans tous les cas de figure, bouger, et donc la mobilité doit leur être accordée, quels que soient les outils et les solutions qu'on veut mettre en place. Donc, c'est essentiel en fait d'avoir la maîtrise de son système billettique parce que c'est une question de souveraineté sur les politiques tarifaires et les politiques de mobilité, puisque c'est la billettique qui met en œuvre ces politiques. Slide suivant, s'il vous plaît. Voilà, alors la question pourrait paraître un peu théorique ou philosophique, mais elle a un vrai sens concret. Il y a une anecdote qui est maintenant assez fameuse, peut-être la connaissez-vous déjà, mais une autorité organisatrice d'origine politique aussi importante que Transport for London peut en quelque sorte se faire avoir dans ce contexte-là, puisqu'il y a cette anecdote dans laquelle Citymapper avait créé un pass mobilité qui comprenait le métro. Et en fait, Citymapper a eu l'idée de vendre le métro moins cher que le tarif qu'avait fixé Transport for London et de supporter, lui, le coût de la réduction, c'est-à-dire que la rémunération qui était apportée à TfL était correcte, effectivement, mais il n'empêche, en tant qu'autorité politique organisatrice, TfL n'avait plus la maîtrise de ce qu'était le prix du métro pour les utilisateurs londoniens de ce métro. Et donc, ça pose une question de fond quand même. Est-ce qu'un acteur privé peut décider du tarif qui est pratiqué dans le transport public, sachant que, comme je le disais, on est ici sur un outil qui est un outil politique pour permettre de mettre en place des politiques de mobilité. Et c'est pour ça que ce que je dis, c'est les systèmes billettiques closed loop, c'est-à-dire ceux qui laissent en fait la totalité de la responsabilité et de la maîtrise dans les mains des autorités organisatrices ou des opérateurs de transport, sont une garantie de souveraineté sur la billettique. Je ne suis pas en train de dire que l'open payment n'a pas un sens. Bien sûr, l'open payment a un sens important à jouer dans le monde de la billettique en apportant des solutions extrêmement efficaces, en particulier pour les voyageurs occasionnels. Mais je dirais d'une manière générale, on dit toujours ne jamais mettre tous ses œufs dans le même panier. Voilà, slide suivant. Il me semble qu'on est revenu au premier slide en plus. Donc, slide suivant. Voilà, donc l'idée ici, merci, on s'arrête. Merci, donc comme le disait Antoine, ce qu'il faut pouvoir, c'est garantir l'agilité et la flexibilité du système. Parce que par rapport à ce que je viens de dire, on voit bien que c'était éminemment évolutif. Les choix politiques, les choix tarifaires, faire d'interopérabilité ou pas avec d'autres acteurs, sont des choix qui ne sont pas forcément tous fixés à l'origine du système, mais qui viennent en cours de route. Et donc, pour assurer cette évolutivité du système, il est nécessaire déjà d'assurer la résilience de ce système. Donc, la sécurité est un point essentiel parce que si la sécurité de votre système est remise en cause, il ne va pas être possible de continuer à le faire évoluer. Il faut pouvoir implanter sans contrainte toute politique tarifaire. C'est extrêmement important parce que ce sont des politiques, comme je le disais, qui sont mises en œuvre par des autorités et elles ne souhaitent pas, comme le disait Antoine, qu'à un moment on leur dise « Ah ben ça, c'est pas possible parce que la billettique, on ne peut pas le faire ». Il faut pouvoir implanter l'interopérabilité. L'interopérabilité, on peut la définir dès le début, mais souvent elle vient en cours de route aussi dans le système. Et combien de réseaux se sont vus dans l'absolue impossibilité de mettre en place de l'interopérabilité parce qu'ils n'avaient pas la maîtrise de leur système. Ou bien il faut pouvoir accepter de nouveaux opérateurs. C'est un problème de même nature, mais les systèmes de transport s'étendent, on crée un nouveau métro, on rajoute un tramway, un bus à haute capacité, etc. Et donc ces nouveaux acteurs doivent pouvoir rentrer dans un système billettique existant, qui est encore une contrainte d'évolutivité très forte. Slide suivant. Voilà, donc ça a aussi été évoqué. Bien sûr, il faut avoir cette agilité, cette flexibilité, mais ça ne peut pas être fait à n'importe quel prix. Et effectivement, le coût de possession du système est vraiment l'indicateur clé de l'efficacité de votre système billettique. Ça représente, comme ça a été dit, le coût global de ce système pendant au moins 15-20 ans de durée de vie, avec tous les coûts initiaux d'achat du système, du matériel, du logiciel, les coûts de déploiement, mais aussi tous les coûts d'exploitation pendant 15 ou 20 ans, la maintenance, l'administration, et le point essentiel sur lequel je voudrais insister, les évolutions. Car tout ce que je viens de dire avant sur l'interopérabilité, la politique tarifaire, les nouveaux opérateurs, ce sont des évolutions dans un système billettique. Et pour pouvoir réduire au maximum ce coût de possession sur la durée de vie, il faut avoir la maîtrise de son système dans tous les aspects. Parce que sinon, on va dépendre d'acteurs tiers qui vont vous tenir et qui en fait seront ceux qui fixeront les prix. Donc, la phrase qu'il faut retenir ici, c'est le bon niveau de maîtrise pour une autorité, pour un opérateur, c'est celui qui permet pour n'importe quelle évolution significative du système d'en mettre en concurrence sa réalisation sur toute la durée de vie. Slide suivant. Voilà, et donc ça n'est pas forcément acquis, parce que l'industriel va vous installer un système qui potentiellement n'a pas ces capacités d'évolution, n'a pas cette possibilité d'évoluer sur le tarifaire, d'évoluer sur l'interopérabilité, etc. Et ce que nous, on a défini, c'est en fait, on a dit, mais qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire à l'origine pour être certain qu'un système billettique va pouvoir évoluer dans le bon sens à un coût raisonnable. Et pour ça, on a bâti 6 règles de bonnes pratiques qui sont maîtriser et posséder son modèle de données. Effectivement, c'est essentiel puisque les évolutions tarifaires vont dépendre de la disponibilité de ce modèle de données pour les opérateurs et les uns. On voit des cas de figure où l'industriel propriétaire d'un modèle de données refuse de le mettre à disposition de son client à l'origine, sauf à des conditions financières qui peuvent être exorbitantes. Donc ça, c'est essentiel. Contrôler son architecture de sécurité, c'est un problème de résilience parce que sans maîtrise de la sécurité, des clés cryptographiques, lorsqu'on va vouloir intégrer un nouvel acteur, si on n'a pas les clés cryptographiques qui protègent le système, on ne pourra pas les donner au nouvel acteur et ça sera évidemment un problème très très grave. S'appuyer sur une architecture modulaire et des API, des interfaces ouvertes, c'est essentiel pour pouvoir s'affranchir de l'industriel d'origine et permettre effectivement cette remise en concurrence aux différentes étapes du système. Avoir des doubles sources, c'est basique, mais on peut se rendre compte que dans la billettique actuelle, souvent, on n'est pas assez vigilant à l'existence de doubles sources et on peut se retrouver coincé par des industriels qui stoppent des productions. C'est arrivé dans le passé. S'appuyer sur des normes et des standards ouverts, effectivement, c'est un minimum pour l'interopérabilité, mais au-delà de s'appuyer, il faut demander les preuves de conformité, parce que, effectivement, sans preuve de conformité, un déclaratif n'est pas toujours suffisant de la part d'un industriel. Et le mieux du mieux, si j'ose dire, c'est la possibilité, lorsqu'ils sont disponibles, d'utiliser des logiciels open source, parce qu'eux sont vraiment la meilleure garantie de concurrence et de baisse très importante des coûts. Dans ma vie RATP, lorsque je faisais l'approvisionnement de systèmes et la mise à niveau du système billettique de la RATP, il m'est arrivé de pouvoir constater entre des briques qui étaient en open source et des briques qui étaient propriétaires, un rapport 1 à 10 sur le coût. C'est-à-dire qu'on parlait de 50 000 € pour une évolution d'une brique open source et 500 000 pour la même brique lorsqu'elle était en mode propriétaire chez un industriel. Slide suivant, s'il vous plaît. Voilà, donc je voudrais illustrer très rapidement, sans rentrer dans les détails, parce que finalement, je n'ai pas le temps de vous présenter tout Calypso, c'est pour ça que j'ai insisté sur ces bonnes règles et ces bonnes pratiques. Il est évident que Calypso s'enorgueille et est fier de respecter toutes ces bonnes pratiques et donc de pouvoir offrir aux opérateurs et aux AO une pleine maîtrise de leur système. Alors, j'ai pris l'exemple du multisource sur lequel je disais que c'est extrêmement important. La grande fierté de Calypso, et elle est l'unique technologie au monde de billettique sans contact NFC à avoir ça, c'est qu'elle est disponible chez plusieurs fondeurs de composants, alors que les autres filières technologiques comme Desfire, MyFair, c'est uniquement chez NXP, Cyper, c'est uniquement chez Infineon, Felica, comme ça a été dit, c'est uniquement chez Sony. Dans la filière, dans la solution, dans le standard Calypso, vous avez le libre choix entre des composants Infineon, des composants ST ou des composants, aujourd'hui, ça commence NXP. Donc, une résilience absolue. Ça n'est pas un problème théorique. Il y a une quinzaine d'années, Motorola, qui est un acteur absolument essentiel du marché des composants, a décidé du jour au lendemain d'arrêter la production des composants sans contact. Et des réseaux aussi importants que Rome ont eu des situations difficiles pendant plus de 10 ans avec l'impossibilité de pouvoir réapprovisionner leurs cartes. Donc, c'est essentiel. Et deuxième aussi élément essentiel du double source, c'est une double source logicielle, c'est-à-dire que l'ensemble des acteurs que vous voyez écrits ici ont chacun développé des produits avec leur propre logiciel, totalement en conformité avec nos spécifications, ce qui donne là aussi une possibilité d'avoir des doubles sources pertinentes et toujours disponibles. Slide suivant, s'il vous plaît, qui sera ma conclusion d'ailleurs, parce que je pense, je n'ai pas vu, mais en temps, je dois être arrivé proche de la fin. Donc, l'idée, c'est de dire qu'est-ce que c'est l'intérêt d'une solution ouverte versus une solution propriétaire. D'abord, les 6 bonnes pratiques que je vous ai indiquées doivent permettre, sont une garantie pour permettre que votre solution est ouverte. Donc, le même industriel à qui vous imposez ces 6 bonnes pratiques ou à qui vous ne imposez rien du tout, vous allez vous retrouver avec des solutions différentes. C'est-à-dire qu'en ayant imposé les 6 bonnes pratiques, votre système sera ouvert. En ne les imposant pas, eh bien évidemment, la tendance naturelle d'un industriel, c'est qu'il aime bien son client et qu'il a envie de le garder à lui pendant 15-20 ans et que personne d'autre puisse s'occuper de lui. Donc, il va vous mettre un système qui obligera à repasser par lui à chaque évolution. Donc, c'est simple, la comparaison, c'est le système en boîte noire. Donc, vous ne savez rien de ce qu'il y a dedans, vous n'êtes pas propriétaire du modèle de données, vous n'avez pas les clés de sécurité, il n'y a pas d'interface ouverte, il n'y a pas de double source. Vous dépendez de l'industriel, les coûts d'évolution vont être extrêmement élevés et votre coût de possession du système va dériver et va devenir potentiellement inacceptable, ou alors les évolutions seront difficiles ou impossibles à mettre en œuvre parce que trop coûteuses. Et donc, c'est un système où vous avez la maîtrise du système, donc vous allez pouvoir être indépendant vis-à-vis de l'industriel initial, remettre en concurrence chaque évolution majeure sur toute la durée de vie, pendant 15 à 20 ans. À ce moment-là, évidemment, vous allez maîtriser votre coût de possession de système, même si à l'origine, ce choix vous a fait un coût initial légèrement supérieur. Comme je le disais, on va avoir un coût, je ne sais pas, je vais dire n'importe quoi, mais un coût supérieur à l'origine de 5 à 10%. Alors, ça va vous paraître épouvantable. Sur 15-20 ans, évidemment, le coût de possession, lui, sera réduit d'au moins 50, 60, 100%, vu les chiffres d'évolution que je vous disais tout à l'heure. Donc, c'est l'évolutivité garantie, c'est la flexibilité garantie, c'est la possibilité de mettre en œuvre toutes les politiques de mobilité, les politiques tarifaires qui sont demandées par les autorités organisatrices, par les opérateurs, et de le faire avec une pleine et entière maîtrise du système. Et évidemment, c'est ce qu'au niveau de Calypso, on souhaite mettre en place. Et on souhaite offrir surtout au monde des utilisateurs, comme au monde industriel. Beaucoup d'industriels se sont ralliés à cette politique d'ouverture de Calypso, en particulier s'approprient, on met à disposition pour permettre une évolutivité la plus importante possible de la billettique. Voilà, merci de m'avoir écouté.
Thank you very much, Antoine and Philippe, for very good presentations. We learned a lot about the different pitfalls and advantages of fare collection systems. Let us proceed to the moderated round table. I will introduce first our panel, the members of the round table, and ask them, as I introduce them, to please turn on their camera. We have Antonio dos Santos Matos, who was appointed in 2018 by the Prime Minister of Mozambique as the CEO of the Maputo Metropolitan Transport Agency, which covers almost 3.2 million inhabitants and an area of 2.2 thousand kilometers squared. He is a member of the Academy of Sciences of Mozambique and a member of the Mozambique Order of Engineers, where he holds the position of chairman of the Mechanical College of Engineering. We also have with us Lilian Nyuguna. I hope I pronounced well your family name. Sorry if I didn't. Lilian is passionate about technology and what it has done to drive financial inclusion. She is currently in the M-Pesa team working on relevant financial products and services that serve businesses, small, medium, and large enterprises. She has a deep commitment and drive to digitize business and drive impact through financial products. She has vast experience working in the fintech space. She's also an advocate for diversity and inclusion in the industry and a beneficiary of the same. Third, Musa Habineza, who is since 2013 the CEO of Kens Ltd, that partners with AC Group Tap and Go. This startup, this company Kens is a smart transport technology company that developed in partnership with others and deployed the intercity bus management and ticketing system used by 18 bus operators with a combined fleet of over 1,000 buses and more than 600 agents across Rwanda. This network allows passengers to buy tickets without using cash via points of sales, via the web and mobile interfaces towards the scheduled buses. This company also provides back-end services for the motor ride-hailing platform used by 7,000 motorcycles that provide public transport service in the Kiwali, Rwanda area. Dhruv Chopra is the Chief Marketing Officer for Chalo. Dhruv leads marketing at Chalo, India's #1 public transport technology company. He's passionate about Chalo's core purpose of making travel better for everyone and believe this is a key to all of us having happier and healthier lives. Prior to Chalo, Dhruv serves as the marketing officer for Carwell and Bikewell. So we welcome all our panel. Please turn on your cameras. Antonio, let me start with you and thank you for joining. I understand you're going through some rough times, so thank you for making the effort to join us. The question for you is, as a Metropolitan Transport Authority, the head of a Metropolitan Transport Authority, which of your goals do you think the automated fare collection AFC system can help you achieve? What do you see as the role for your agency in the development of AFC for your city? So Antonio, please, 1 minute or two to answer.
Thank you. First of all,
we cannot hear you, Antonio. Maybe your microphone is not. No, sorry, we cannot hear you. Can anyone among my colleagues, the translators, confirm? Or am I the only one?
Hello? Or am I the only one? Hello?
We can hear you now.
We can hear you now. Yeah, sorry. I did the test before, not today, before yesterday. But let me go through the meeting. First of all, thank you for all. I think if we talk about the goals about AFC, everybody knows because it's wonderful expertise in the table. But for us, first is eliminate the cash using transport and reduce the risks and costs associated with ending. Second is, this electronic service is new in Mozambique. We are introducing a new methodology. We are introducing new technology. Of course, there is people around, that doesn't believe on that, but we need to have data. So this is another big advantage. For the government side, we need to have data in order to make decisions. And we need to create a robust platform. This is for us is very important. Without data, we cannot make a good decisions. But let me talk about another things. We have also here in Mozambique problems with the operators. So they need to change the minds in order to follow the 21st century. And this is not an easy process. It is a process, step by step. It doesn't, I am not saying that they are not following us. I'm saying that, we need to have time. And this is a big problem in terms of transport, public transport. Also, the transformation in transport needs times, and especially from African country. And there is another, let me say, very big advantage for the operators. They will see in electronic ways from the bank, they will see what they receive from each day. Unfortunately, in my Maputo metropolitan area, some of, not the big ones, but few of them, they are not follow the system. And some of them, they receive a lot of money, and others always complain about this, and that. And this is one also big advantage of AFC, because we can demonstrate to them that the money is there, you can sleep, and when you wake up, the money will be there in your account. So this is another big importance advantage. Well, I have a lot of advantage for them, but let me say the last one is job creation. Because here in Mozambique, we have the driver and we have the conductor. So we need to replace the conductor in terms of, to collect the money from the passengers. And we need to create another possibility in order to growing up. Those people are very important for us. We cannot put even the public transport, or even other guys from the informal sector, we cannot put aside, because they are very important in the public transport system. So we are trying to create new jobs for them in order to transform them as a supervising, because in terms of AFC, we need to have people, and most of them, they are young people. And that's why I believe that system provide the government with real data and provide us to create new jobs for those young people. For now, I'm finished. Thank you.
Antonio, thank you. You raised many key points, including the reform effort and how operators need to have trust in that the new fare collection system will indeed take care of the cash. They're used to the cash. Lillian, let me continue with you with this question. We see a real boom of cell phones and micropayments in African cities. However, there are just a few examples in informal transit fare payment. And even in Kenya, it would represent a small percentage of the Matatu users. So the question is cashless Matatu really possible? Over to you, Lillian, and welcome to the panel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mommy,
And
let's play with the ball.
okay, sorry guys, we're working from home. So yeah, so for cashless in, I think we've seen in Kenya, we've had matatus use cashless. The challenge has been getting the consumers to pay in a cashless way. One of the biggest challenge we face is, sorry guys. One of the challenges we faced is that matatus pay out at least 17 people at the end of the day. They pay the person who cleans the matatu, they pay different people, and all these people will not take mobile money or any other form of payment. They want to take cash. So by default, they encourage their customers to pay cash so that they don't have to withdraw at the end of the day to pay. I think also the biggest hindrance we see is they think that by moving money to mobile money or collecting the payments through mobile money exposes them to tax. So those are some of the challenges we faced with payments in Kenya. And of course, technology that's simple and easy to use. And it's simple and easy to use for both the consumer, the matatus, and the owners. In Kenya, we call them matatus. But systems and technologies that are easy to use, because assuming someone is going through a distance of like 300, 400 meters, and they're paying only an equivalent of $1, how do I quickly pay with my mobile money as I alight? Yeah.
Thank you, Lillian. Very interesting that 17 people live off and need to be paid daily from the matatu in general. And they're all used to cash-based payments, which shows us that the reform, the effort to, for example, formalize public transport has other actors and actresses beyond the driver or the owner of the unit. There are many more involved, all on a cash-based economy. Musa, over to you. From your experience in Kigali, what are the benefits that the government and the operators obtained from the implementation of the fair payment system? Welcome to the panel, Musa, please.
Thank you so much, Arturo. Thank you for the good question. So maybe I will start by introducing myself. I'm Musa from Mackenzie. We are just a partner company to AC Group. We've been working together on introducing these solutions to the public transport. So AC Group has a card, tap and go card, which has been in operation since 2015. And since the launch of the card in Kigali, we've seen a lot of benefits that both the government got and also the bus companies. From the government side, one thing which was really important to them is the formalization of the sector. With the automated fare system that is used maybe in the city of Kigali with the 3 bus operators, the government has visibility on all the routes. They have visibility on who is going where. So when it comes to having strategies in place, it's much easier because it is factual this time. They base on the data. So it also came in handy when things like giving subsidies to the bus companies happened during the COVID. The sales of bus companies went really down and the government had to come in to provide subsidies. So having the automated fare collection system in place was very, very important to the government because they could know, okay, the revenues were this much, they reduced to this much, maybe we need to compensate to this level. The second one, maybe on the bus operators, was on increase of revenue. Before, when it was actually cash-based, you were actually having people collecting money on your behalf, cash, so you don't really know how much money they are going to give you at the end of the day. But with having things like automated fare collection in place, you know how many people are entering your bus, how many taps you have, and nobody's interacting with anybody in terms of money. If I have money on my card, it's much easier. So I will tap and the bus company is going to get their revenue in full instead of conductors and touts giving them whatever they want. The second one is on institutions which wanted really to work with bus operators in terms of maybe asset financing and other things. So they had a chance to see that there is maybe a third party, in this case, AC Group and us, who came in to provide data which can just be trusted as a third party. So we saw things like asset financing happening in the public transport sector. So thank you, Arturo.
Thank you, Musa. You highlight, as well as other panelists, the nature of the informality, no? And how the cash-based payments generates also opportunities for leakages of cash along the chain. And we see this at the World Bank worldwide. Some bus owners rent the bus daily, for example, to minimize that risk. You pay me $100 a day, and if you carry $90, you pay me 100. It's your risk. So risk here also becomes part of the equation when we talk about reforms and introducing modern payment systems. The risk allocation, commercial risk, if enough people ride. Dhruv, over to you with this idea of formal and informal. Chalo has worked both with formal and informal operators in India. From your experience, how did you convince the informal operators to take up the Chalo fare collection system, to use it? Please, Dhruv, over to you. I cannot hear Dhruv, and I see his screen is frozen. Something has happened. Dhruv, are you still there? Well, while Dhruv comes back and joins the meeting again, Dhruv, we're waiting for you. Let's go back to Antonio. Antonio, in light of the discussion and your experience, what are the key enablers that would assist you in the implementation of AFC, of an automated fare collection? And in particular, highlight also, because I guess in Maputo, you also have, as you pointed out, and our fellow panelists, the informality, the cash. You mentioned the trust that is needed in your first answer. So I was wondering if, for example, a bank is the one that is where gets the fare collection daily. So tell us, what are the enablers? And I bring up the bank because you mentioned the issue of trust in your first answer. Over to you, Antonio, please.
Yeah, thanks again, Arthur. Now, let me say something before. For us, we have, in terms of the role to play, we have, to articulate with several municipalities, because we are Maputo metropolitan area. So it means that we have 5 municipalities, so 5 mayors. First. Second, to articulate with the government. And this means, in other words, means regulated. And if you want to regulate, you need to create some kind of environment to be all of us together, because that role of public transport you cannot solve with one institution. We need to be together in terms of solving a lot of issues. They come when you start to, for instance, we born on 2018 in terms of Maputo Metropolitan Agency. And after that, we create a structural network of public transport. So we need to articulate with other institutions from the government side and also from the private side. And it was very difficult because it was 2 elections in my country, and so on. Well, I don't want to talk about them, but in terms of principle, we need to articulate. As Maputo Metropolitan Transport Agency, we need to articulate with private and public sector, also the government. And when we articulate, we need to create some regulations. Regulation is very important because if you don't have something to say, this is good, this is bad, it's, you know, this is nothing. Always you talking. In terms of, you know, enables, in terms to assist us as AFC, of course, we have our partners, World Bank, also UATP. I hope my friend will be here, the private sector, etc. But we need, most of them, we need experts from, because it's the first model in Mozambique. We need experts to assisting us, technical assistance, to create, you know, some kind of positive environment, because AFC give us as a government sector data, and with that data we can make good decisions. So without data we cannot say nothing. So first we need to have some expertise to give us, you know, some kind of, you know, accountability in terms of AFC system, because right now we have our colleagues, our friends from Tanzania, Maxcom, they are dealing with this process, but we receive data and we analyze, but we need to have more people with more experience than us to give us some help in terms of to analyze the data and to create more positive environment. Of course, we are in the changing model. So it means that the people, they need to understand that cash is over. So let us talk about electronic. With our Famba card, we have not only payments of transport, we have also created the environment that the people can pay other, you know, other issues related with gas, TV, water. They can use our card to pay that, because also we create some linkage with other ESD. They helping us to create this system. Also Maxcom, our colleagues from Tanzania. So right now we are connected with M-Pesa, we are connected with all some platforms. And so my card is not only for transport, it's also for other purpose. And this is very important for us. This is very, very important for us. So that's why we are putting all our efforts in order to you know, to change the mentality of our passengers, also our operators, to do that.
Thank you, Antonio. We're running a little bit behind. Among the many ideas that you elicited in my mind, one is the definition of politics and how it's the peaceful way to decide on public affairs. Dhruv, you're back. The question, how did you get on board informals into Chalo? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try and stay connected this time. So it's actually not so hard to get the operator on board, is what I was saying. Our business model is very simple. We go to them and provide them with a new ticketing device with GPS for their bus, with cameras in their bus for them to live stream the passengers in the bus. We also provide them a full-fledged card system, an AFC system, mobile tickets, passes, the works. This is something that they can't do on their own as individual operators. And we provide it to them at a network level for a very low fee of something like $2 a day. So that overcomes the initial issue of having to invest in all this technology themselves. The second part is that we've also created an operator savings program, which gives them benefits in terms of discounts and savings on everyday items like fuel, tires, batteries, insurance, and so on and so forth. And they actually save more than $2 a day on the first day itself with Chalo. So the fees that they're paying us for deploying the technology is more than recovered immediately in their savings. So that effectively makes the technology free for them. So operators in any case are on board because they're losing a lot of money every day into revenue leakage to their crew, to operational aspects of their businesses because it's all 100% in cash. So they're on board pretty quickly, especially because our business model makes it easy. The difference is that it's the crew actually that's the harder nut to crack, to get them on board and to get them to work with you in making the system a success. What we've seen is usually most of the crew will fight the system in the early days, and you have to work very hard to get them to come on board. So we do work with them a lot. We do a lot of training. We elevate their roles. We have incentive programs for crew. We give them monthly rewards for the best performing digital conductors on buses. We even have large events where we invite their family and call the best performing conductors on stage and give them fantastic consumer durable products for their family. For example, a bus conductor gets to take home a washing machine or a new color TV, and then it's almost like the neighbors are envying you, and the family is there to witness this, and so on. So I think we focus a lot in that way. Yeah.
Thank you. Very good. You remind us that new technologies should really provide a benefit, and we heard that from Philippe as well. That the benefit equation should add up. I know of some fare collection systems where really the success story was not there. Lillian, in light of what we're hearing in your bio, you mentioned fintech, and you mentioned also in your first answer all this network of 17 people, and we are hearing in our panel that the benefits of digitalization and eliminating the cash, but you reminded us that some people are cash-based. Fintech, bancarization, helping people open an account, not in a bank necessarily, but some sort of account somewhere. Will this help us achieve a cashless payment system and the benefits that we know come from it? Lillian, over to you.
Thank you very much, Truro. I think for me, the way I see it is for them to be they're already financially included. I mean, M-Pesa today has over 27 million active customers in a month. That means that we have customers who, all our customers basically use M-Pesa at least one day in a month. To speak to this specific subset of customers, the biggest challenge we face when we're trying to digitize them is trying to change how they operate. So if you want to digitize them, don't disrupt how they operate. If they receive money and they pay out all of it, don't try and get them to save it if there's no money to save. If they don't want to open a bank account or use complicated documents, business registration documents to set up, don't try and restrict them to those things. Otherwise, you'll struggle with adoption. If you're changing behavior either of the consumer or the recipient, then you will struggle. So what we try and do is we've asked them to collect money through their personal mobile accounts. We've created a separate account called Pochi. Pochi is a small wallet in Swahili. It means wallet, which sits as a secondary wallet to the main M-Pesa wallet. So when you collect on that wallet, you're able to separate your business funds from your personal funds. And what it allows you to do is we lock that account against reversals, which is a challenge that most of them face. Sometimes when people send money, they call into the MNO and say, I want to reverse my money. So we've created a separate wallet and we've told them, don't change your behavior. People can send to your number, and we give them stickers where they can write their numbers, or placards that they can write their number and hang them as they get on duty. And this has been very helpful in that if a customer comes on board and they says, I want to pay with M-Pesa, then the option is there. So we try as much to not change customer behavior, because when you attempt to do, you have to teach people a new way, which is very hard. Yeah. So we try and embed the journey of payments, because payments is not the problem. They don't struggle. I mean, if you're giving someone 50 shillings, they'll say, yeah, give me 50 shillings. I wouldn't refuse to take the money. But now you're creating actually an inconvenience. So you best make it easy and easy to access with value add. So we're trying to give them value adds like airtime and good statements to help them be able to differentiate or separate their personal money from business. Yeah.
Lillian, wise words also when you say do not change behavior dramatically. Try to do these reforms incrementally. Musa, linking what we have been discussing and with your bio, you mentioned thousands of buses. And as Fatima explained in her presentation, one of the key aspects is that the fare box, the total collected, does not go individually to each operator, but rather is pooled and then allocated more as an enterprise or as a group of providers that provide service to users. Are you achieving with your solutions something like this, or is just an electronic way of having each operator keep the revenue that operator generated? And how does the sharing, if at all, happens of the revenue, please?
Thank you so much, Arturo. So the business model that AC Group introduced when we started working with all the 3 bus companies operating in Kigali, let me start there maybe, is having a network of agents that allows people to top up their card, and this card is where the money sits. So we collect this money, it is sitting in our bank account with a model that allows us to keep this money. And every time a bus, somebody goes to the bus and they tap on the bus validator, so this is when the bus company can claim money from us. So we hold the money for the bus companies, and by the end of the day, when the reconciliation is done, they can actually request for the money and we do a wire transfer. So that is how it has been happening in Kigali. We tried to introduce the same model in the intercity, where we started providing the ticketing solution. So the model that we used was a model we call e-value. It's like everybody who is selling a bus ticket does something like pre-buying. They pre-fund our account and we allow them to sell the ticket. So ahead of time, before they start working, we already have the money. So at the end of the day, again, with any other bus company that we work with, we know exactly you bought a ticket for which particular bus, you entered which particular bus. So we know from the system that this bus took this number of people, so we can just pay accordingly. If a bus belongs to a bus company, we pay collectively. And the model allows also the buses, if it is an individual bus and we know how many people enter this particular bus, the money can also be paid on an individual bus. So with the 2 models that we introduced, I think we found a way of, maybe I would call it digitizing the cash in itself, and on top of other methods like mobile money, the smart card that allows us to have control on the money. So we have control on the money, we pay the bus companies.
Thank you. We're going to do one more question to Dhruv, and then we move on to the closing remarks. So Dhruv, it's a 2-pronged question. One is on the value generated for the operator from the Chalo solutions. Tell us more about that value. Excuse me. And then a question we got from the audience is that given a high percentage of people in Africa live below the poverty line and cannot afford the new technologies being introduced, how do the implementers work around that challenge? And maybe the experience of Chalo is relevant to answering this question. Dhruv, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So actually the value that we bring to the operator starts with the value that we get for passengers, right? So with the Chalo app, they can live track their buses and they don't have to wait at a bus stop ever again, because they'll see the live arrival time and then reach the bus stop just a minute or 2 before the bus arrives. And this makes the bus network very reliable. The perception of reliability is created because now you're no longer standing and waiting for 15, 20 minutes for the bus. And then there's the added benefits of having a common card, which can work across buses, a common mobile ticket system, maybe a mobile pass, and new travel plans that are created. All of this actually works together to increase ridership for operators, which automatically means a lot more revenue for operators. We have been able to increase ridership between 25% and 100% in some of the cities that we've been operating in India in less than 2 years' time. So that's really the massive value for operators. And then, of course, by aggregating thousands of operators together, as I mentioned earlier, we've created an operator savings program where most operators can save more money than they're paying out to Chalo every single day, just by creating an aggregated group buying system for them. So that's the value for the operators. And with the increased ridership, et cetera, there's a lot of value for the overall city, including with the data that we generate for the transport planners and the city planners as well. Now, when it comes to the cost of this technology, India faces a very similar challenge. There are a lot of people in India who cannot afford to buy fancy technology. In India, only about half the people on the bus have a smartphone and the other half do not have it. And this is one of the reasons why we have gone with the dual proposition of both card and mobile. First of all our mobile technologies are designed to work on phones that are at a price point of $60 to $70. Typically the lowest end smartphones available in the market, Android phones available in the market. The card is available for 50 cents. And in some cities, we work with the authorities to make it available for even 30 cents for them to buy a card. We also work with operators to further defray the cost of the card so that maybe they get something like a welcome ride or an extra bonus on their first recharge on the card and so on. So the cost of buying the card and converting from cash to digital is almost negligible for the passenger. And then we help them with discounts on digital as compared to cash. So when you're standing there as a bus passenger, you have two options. You can pay more in cash or slightly lesser in digital. And the journey from cash to digital is very, very easy as well. All of this is initial investments. Chalo co-invests along with operators and along with city governments. That's the only way to really make it happen. But yeah, it is a tough challenge. It's not easy. The economics are hard to make work, but it's not impossible to make it work. I mean, that's what I would say.
Thank you very much. Fascinating set of answers, Dhruv, on showing us the value proposition for the user, the interoperability that Philippe was mentioning. And I always argue in my work at the World Bank that we cannot focus only on the users that have the smartphone. The low-end cell phone must be part of the solution, and you gave us an eloquent example. So indeed, all cell phones are quite powerful, and people forget the power that they have, even the cheap one. We're now moving on. We could speak for more time. We're running late. Closing remarks, Liz Bruhl. She manages AFD's Transport and Mobility Division, which supports and finances development projects focusing on urban mobility, national collectivity, rail and road transport, and participation in international trade, maritime and air transport. With AFD since 2007, Liz has worked in several positions at headquarters and internationally. Liz, welcome to the panel. And thank you to our panelists and previous presenters. It has been a very good event. Liz, for your closing remarks, please.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. You see me under Antoine Chèvre, but it's me. We are both in the same room in Paris. I have listened with great interest to all the panelists. Maybe I should change to French. Qu'est-ce que je fais? En fait, je vais passer au français, excusez-moi, Arturo. Comme... je parlais en anglais juste parce que je répondais à Arturo, mais j'essaye de faire de la défense de la langue française. Alors, pardon, je voulais faire peut-être deux remarques, ce que je retiens de ce qui a été dit. Alors, la première, ça fait un petit peu un écho à ce que disait Antoine, c'est de voir la billettique pas simplement comme une façon de réformer le secteur du paratransit, mais vraiment comme une des clés pour l'intermodalité d'un système de mobilité, pour le bon fonctionnement d'un système dans lequel il y a du mass transit, il y a un système secondaire, il y a du paratransit ou du transport informel. Et je voulais juste donner un exemple, c'est que si je prends Dakar, dans lequel à la fois la Banque mondiale et l'AFD investissent dans du mass transit, 50% des passagers du BRT vont provenir du transport artisanal et ce chiffre monte même à 70% pour le TER. Et ce que ça montre, c'est qu'on ne peut pas réfléchir les deux séparément. Et pour que les voyageurs aient une expérience de voyageur intéressante et fluide et puissent voyager de manière seamless, comme on dit en anglais, la billettique on doit avoir une billettique intégrée. Pour moi, c'est vraiment clé pour que les deux secteurs soient le mieux reliés. C'est clé, et cela a été rappelé beaucoup par Monsieur Antonio là, de Maputo, c'est clé aussi pour avoir de l'information voyageur et derrière ça de la donnée et derrière ça aussi une meilleure planification. Alors une fois qu'on a dit ça, la spécificité du transport informel, comme vous l'avez tous dit, c'est qu'on a beaucoup de cash-based, donc tout est payé en cash et que c'est beaucoup des tickets unitaires. Donc, je crois que si j'ai bien retenu le message qui a été passé par plein de gens sur le terrain, c'est que toute solution billettique doit proposer une transition ou des solutions qui vont bénéficier à la fois aux usagers et aux opérateurs et même do not change behaviors, comme disait Liliane tout à l'heure dans la table ronde. Donc, des systèmes légers, des systèmes ouverts qui vont pouvoir parler au mass transit et des systèmes qui apportent d'autres avantages que simplement d'être cashless. Ça, c'est le premier point. Le deuxième takeaway que je vois dans ce que vous avez dit, c'est peut-être j'enfonce une porte ouverte, mais c'est que le sujet de la gouvernance est central. Vous êtes plusieurs à l'avoir rappelé. Alors, une fois qu'on a dit ça, il y a plein de modèles différents avec plus ou moins une implication du secteur privé ou du secteur public, avec plus ou moins de la mise en commun des revenus et de la redistribution. Et ce qui est important, c'est de trouver la gouvernance, là encore, qui s'adapte au modèle économique des opérateurs et de ne pas forcément vouloir tout réformer d'un coup. Une fois qu'on a dit ça, là encore, plusieurs dynamiques en cours, dont je crois celle qui est importante, c'est aussi le rôle des acteurs bancaires ou le rôle des GAFA dans ces systèmes de billettique qui offrent un service de transport et un service bancaire à la fois. Voilà ce que je retiens et encore une fois, merci beaucoup pour ces échanges que j'ai trouvés passionnants et qui donnent envie de creuser certains cas d'études. J'ai fini. Je ne sais pas si vous m'entendez.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Lise. So thank you very much. So we have had a very good set of presentations and discussions for the launch, of our flagship report on innovations in fair payment systems as part of our Modernizing Public Transport in Africa series, sponsored by SSATP, AFD, and the World Bank. I finish by having a short reflection saying that the reform of public transport, and I echo here, Liz, has to have, of course, benefits for the users and for the operators. We are facing a very informal yet valuable service right now that needs to be expanded in many cities in Africa. There are many cities that don't have enough public transport. So we need to think of ways to promote and expand public transport. And here with the automated fare collection systems, the interoperability, the open protocols, the involvement of technological platforms that allow not only the high-end cell phone, but the low-end one that are inclusive of the people that clean and that give maintenance to the unit, but also to the user and the driver, of course. Maybe we can find a way precisely to help improve public transport, expanded, as I said, because many cities need more public transport and benefiting users and operators alike. With that, I want to close this event. Thank you very much, and thank you for staying a little bit longer than originally scheduled. Have a good rest of your day wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much, and congratulations to the team that wrote this report. Thank you again, all our presenters and panelists. Goodbye.
Can I ask
Thank you.
if, thank you, everyone. Can I ask all of the panelists if you're still connected to turn on your cameras so I can do a screenshot of all of you? Thank you. We're not all here, but a lot of us are here. So great. Let me do another one. And perfect. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you very much for
everyone.
the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.